Ladies and gentlemen, we are live here on Facebook and YouTube, reminding you we want to make this as interactive as possible. Please keep your arms and legs in your chairs at all times because your host today is a transformational tour guide. So without further ado, welcome to Win Today with ME.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. Happy June 1, everybody. Happy June 1. Do you know what I just learned, Doug? Listen to this. So do you know that the term rabbit is said the first thing on the first day of every month as a way to have 30 days of luck? Have you ever heard that before?
I have not.
I swear on social media, there's a couple people that I follow and they keep saying rabbit. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? So I actually looked into it. It's a British term that started as a superstitious phrase that people say the first day of the month for 30 days of luck. So rabbit, everybody.
So it's like their groundhog or something?
I kind of, and I don't really know why rabbits or whatever, but rabbit. I'm just going to start rabbit. So here we are, June 1st. So thank you guys. I hope everyone had a nice Memorial Day weekend and we are here. I love the first day of every month because it's new beginnings. It's new possibilities. I always think that something exciting is going to be right around the corner. New opportunities are going to come my way. And I'm excited because this is the book. This is the month my book officially launches. Win Today with ME, right? Win Today, Jersey Girls Guide. It's coming out. Go to wintodaybook.com to sign up. And it's coming very, very soon here in a couple of short weeks. It'll be live on Amazon. So we talk about going big in our lives and winning big and dreaming big. And I have the perfect guest today to really, really hone in on this topic. He's a dear, dear friend of mine who really dreamt big, set goals, and freaking crushed them. And he's a dear friend of mine. He's a mentor of mine. And I'm going to interview him today about how he completely went for it, dreamt big, was tired of staying stuck, tired of being on the sidelines, and set these amazing goals later in life, quite frankly, and now is living his dream life. Seriously living his dream life. He's really the poster child for what we're trying to do here on this podcast, what I talk about in my book, about how it's never too late to get off the sidelines and go for things. So let me introduce the man, the myth, the legend, my dear friend, Bob Ford. Bob, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Wow, what an introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that building. But hey, congratulations on your book. I am so excited to see your book. I've already signed up to get it, and I want a signed autographed copy.
You know, everybody needs a Bob Ford in their life. Bob Ford was... No, I'm serious because we talk about this a lot, Bob. Sometimes you just need one person to believe in you, just one person. And you are that person for me, other than my husband. You know, you're my work husband. Wayne's my real life husband. You're my work husband. But sometimes Wayne can say things in my ear. And yes, I hear him, but I think he's partial to, but when somebody else believes in you, like you believed in me, you always knew I would do things with my life beyond where I was at the time. And because you believed in me first, I honestly think this is one of the reasons I'm here today. So it's just an honor to now have you as, riding this dream with me. And I'm going to now talk to you about how you rode these dreams to really, it's just remarkable what you've done. So I want to set the stage here, Bob, because we could really, you and I talk about this a lot. We are cut from the same cloth. We always were made for more. We always knew we were meant for something more for our life. And so both you and I accomplished really wonderful things in our life on a personal and a professional level. But we always both knew that there was something else out there, which I think is why we get along so well. So let me just set the stage. So my man, Bob, are you 62 now? 62?
I'll be 62 in July. Next month now, I'll be 62.
Okay, almost 62. Okay. So let me bring you back to mid 50s. Bob Ford, very, very successful guy by his own right. worked for one of the top accounting firms in the country. Am I correct in saying that, Bob?
One of the oldest consulting firms in the country, over 100-year-old, very large, well-known consulting firm.
Big job, big job. Dedicated father, dedicated husband, and was also, like me, part-time triathlete, middle of the packer, triathlete, sort of just wanted to stay in the game. Everything was going smoothly. If you would have looked at Bob's life, you would have envied it. You would have thought, gosh, I want this guy's life. This guy has it all. He's got this amazing career. He's got this amazing family. And you know what? He's got this really cool hobby that he dabbles in, and he has fun on the weekends or whatever. And as you approached your 60s, Bob, you said to yourself, yeah, I don't think so. I think there's something else out there. I think I was meant for something else. Life wasn't what it was cracked up to be in your mind. So can you take us to that point when you looked at your life, you saw 60 on the horizon, and you said, I think there's something else out there for me. Talk to me a little bit about what was going on in your mind at that time.
That certainly. So I guess this would maybe be, 5-6 years ago. I was in my mid-50s, and I had a successful job, but I was very stressed out. It was a very stressful job. I liked my job, but the stress was pretty high. I had to travel all the time, and no matter how much you do, it wasn't quite enough. And I just felt like there has to be more to life, and I was thinking about, I was going to be hitting 60, and that's a big, big point in your life, and you realize you've got less time in the future than you had, right? So It made me think about what I really wanted and what was important, and I really felt this desire to try to have a better second chapter, really, and so I went on a journey of self-discovery, which was somewhat painful.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about that. Now, I'm a big believer in personal development. I talk about this a lot. I talk about it in my book. I talk about it here on the podcast. What was the book that you had picked up at the time that really started asking you these questions? What was the book that was very significant at the time?
Well, the first thing I did, I talked to my mentors and folks I trusted and that I knew cared about me, and I just got their advice. And one of my mentors suggested that this book titled Halftime by Bob Buford is a good book to read. It has helped him as he approached a major transition in his life. And I trusted this mentor, and I immediately got the book and read it. And it really posed this question of, when you have the opportunity to do whatever you want, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue doing the same thing you're doing, even though you may not be happy and you may be stressed out, but it's what everyone expects you to be doing, or, your family, your friends, you're just kind of following along the path? Or do you want to really reevaluate this? And this book really poses that question. What gives you significance? Because that's what matters, not just doing things because that's what you've always done.
I want to touch on two things here. You had said to me that this journey that can you hear me okay? Because
Yes, I can.
Okay. That this journey that you were embarking on took you 18 months. Now, I want to make a point here. A lot of people are living in an Amazon Prime society. Most people are living in an Amazon Prime society. So if the answer doesn't come to them right away, they say, screw it, let me just stay where I am. It's not worth it. You took 18 months to figure out what you wanted the next chapter of your life to look like, that you knew the next chapter of your life needed more significance. And you sat with that, though. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't think a lot of people would have taken 18 months to figure this out.
You're right. It was very hard. I read the book Halftime, and it said you really have to develop a vision for your life, a vision of what that life looks like, and then how does it apply specifically? And you basically start here with a blank piece of paper. And then you have to start thinking about what's important to me. Why are those things important? And then once I know that, then I can come up with some specific strategies to pursue those things. And there were months where I was sitting here looking at this, and most days I'd be like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, because even though I wasn't really happy and I had a lot of stress, I was actually more comfortable. I was more comfortable in that place than I was in this place, trying to figure out what was really significant to me. That was very difficult.
Right. And, the other thing that you mentioned too, you had to put aside expectations of what other people might have thought. So here you were a successful guy, everything was going well in your life. You were making a really good income. And here you thought, I need to do something of more significance. And you had to put aside the opinions and expectations of others. And that's a scary thing, isn't it?
Yes. In fact, many people thought I was crazy. I was dealing with some kind of personal crisis. What are you doing? When I decided to leave the corporate world and pursue these things I had a passion to do, and I felt like I had some competency to do, it really rocked a lot of people's worlds. They could not believe I was walking away and pursuing these other avenues. It was quite a shocker.
It was a shocker, but you went forward anyway. So you walked away from your corporate job. You walked away from it, and you decided you said you wanted to help people. I'm getting a lot of kickback today. I don't know why that is.
Bob's speaker's a little loud.
Oh, okay. You wanted to help people, Bob. You said, I want to help people and I want to give back. So you pursued the coaching component, right? You became a financial coach through Dave Ramsey, right? You started to talk a little bit about that, about where you went next.
Yeah, the next step was I kind of come up with this vision I had. Okay, I was going to turn 60, and I really had a heart to help people in areas where I had this passion, right, and some competency. Because I think you can have passion, but if you don't have any competency, you're not really going to be successful. Like I may want to sing in Nashville. It's not going to work out well, right? I may want to do that, but it's not going to work out. So this helping people was the overall context. And I said, well, how does that translate? You could help people all kinds of ways. And I had this passion for the Dave Ramsey financial coaching, his system. I experienced that and how that helps so many people. And I also had another project developing a prayer app, kind of a spiritual helping people project. And then the health coaching came along and plugged in because I was not very healthy at all, physically unhealthy, even though I was working out all the time. And this program allowed me to get healthy. And I said, well, this is really cool because I love this health and wellness, and I can help people with their finances, and now I can maybe help them with their health. So it all came together, and I just said, hey, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to pursue this. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. So you walked away from your job simultaneously you thought, I need to go get healthy in my body and mind. So let's touch on that. How much weight did you lose after you walked away from your corporate job? How much weight?
I was probably 40, 50 pounds overweight.
40, 50 pounds. So you really went through a complete lifestyle transformation.
I had to buy all new clothes.
In more ways than one. That's incredible. So you got healthy. You started to do something that set your soul on fire, helping people, pouring into people in all different avenues. So then 2019, this is what you're doing, right? You're doing these coach components. Now, talk to me about, did your circles change at that time? Maybe you were hanging out with certain people at that time or around certain people. Then you decided to shift over here. Did you get a lot of raised eyebrows and judgment from other people about what were you doing?
That's a very good question. And I hadn't really thought of that before, but my circle of relationships did change. And, some of the books I've read, you become the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. And I think with my new direction in life, some friends just fell away because I think it kind of rocked the relationship. I was moving in a different direction, and I saw the glass as half full all the time, and some of these folks saw the glass as half empty, and it didn't work.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot on this podcast and in my book, is that when you change, when you want to pivot and shift, many times it requires letting go of some relationships and friendships and close associations that don't serve this new path that you're on. And it's not that you love them any less. It's just that they're not walking on this new journey with you. And you have to be open to just loving them anyway, but kind of gently putting them over to the side. And that's not easy. We talk about this. A lot of these things that you're doing were not easy for you to do, right? Leaving an old identity behind, leaving some old relationships behind, but you knew for you to walk down this new path, to embrace this new chapter, to really, level up in a different way in your life, it required this of you. And I think many people don't have the strength to do those things. Would you say that that's true?
Yes, it does take strength, and it is scary, but you get confirmation along the way in several factors. I had peace. I had a sense of peace that I was on track. I did not have anxiety about it. It made me sad that some relationships, did not continue on the way they had previously. But the new relationships I was forming were so rich and powerful. And what I was doing in other people's lives was giving me so much meaning for my own life. I had this reinforcement that allowed me to continue on and strengthen my belief over time.
So your first dream was to start pouring into others. You started doing that. And then you decided to accomplish a second goal in your life. You envisioned a second dream. And what was that dream at the beginning of 2020? What was that dream that you had?
Well, in 2019, I'd gotten healthy. I was doing the coaching full time, and I thought, well, maybe I can become, had a lot of goals. But we'll just use my endurance sports, the triathlon, as an example. I said, maybe I can become a better athlete. I was always a very average guy, middle of the pack. I liked competing, but I wasn't very competitive. And in 2019, I had this dream that maybe I could become better. And I did in 2019. I did have a much better performance than I'd ever had. So as we were coming into 2020, I said to myself, maybe I can be really competitive, like actually get on a podium at one of these Ironman races. But I felt I was at the limit of what I could do coaching myself. So I actually worked with a very experienced coach, and I believe in coaching so much that we formed these goals of trying to get on a podium at an Ironman triathlon event, and perhaps even qualify for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships. That was my goal going into 2020. So we started working together late 2019 and into 2020, and I was so excited. 2019, I was seeing all this progress, all this growth. My life was really coming together. And then what happened in 2020?
Yep.
COVID.
Yep, absolutely. And before we continue, I wanted to just touch on a couple things for those, those folks out there that might not be familiar with the triathlon world. So triathlon is an event where you swim, you bike, and you run all back to back within the same day, within the same time period. It requires you being proficient in all 3 areas. Ironman, there's 2 different types of Ironman. There's a half Ironman distance, which is it's a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike ride, and a 13.1 mile run. A full Ironman is double that. And Bob and I have both competed in both events. But I want to touch on, now look at this, everybody. Just look at this transformation that Doug is about to put up here. But Bob, I want to just touch on something else. You had hired a coach in 2019 because you set this dream, you set this goal, but you knew that maybe you didn't have the wherewithal to accomplish it on your own. Why is that important to hire an expert in the area that you're trying to win at? Because I talk about this a lot. If you don't know how to do something, start to get around the people that are winning in that area. Why is that important to hire an expert who can help you on that path?
Yes. Well, I'm actually a triathlon coach myself, and I did self-coach for a while. I've also had other coaches. But in my experience, if you want to become the very best, that takes additional help. You know, I knew I needed additional help. We all have blind spots and we all have limiting beliefs. And a coach that's experienced in achieving the goal you want to achieve, you know, I wanted to achieve. I actually searched out for a coach that had done the things personally. He had achieved the things I want to achieve, and he had helped others. And I said, this is the guy I want coaching me. He's going to help me, because really, if you want to be your best, every little thing matters. Everything matters, because you're, you know, if you're competing at this high level, you can't leave anything to chance. So, since I wanted this goal, I knew I needed help to help me really pursue it. The other thing a good coach will do, you know, I'm a fairly smart guy, you know, I could probably get there over time if I did it on my own, but a good coach will accelerate your progress. Accelerate.
Yes.
They've done it. They've seen it. They've helped others. They'll cut through the chaff. You know, you can read and study, but they've done it. And you know, that matters. That means a lot.
Yeah. And, you know, I always talk about this. When you want to win in an area of your life, go find the person that's winning in that area. You talk about that. You talk about that the coach you were using had done it before himself personally. So that was number one. Yeah. The second thing is it held you accountable. Now, a lot of these things we want to do, we can do on our own. You said it. You and somebody like you and I, we didn't need the discipline or the motivation, right? We had that innate ability to do that. However, hiring the expert held you accountable, right? Look, it worked out. You know, maybe you pushed a little harder on certain days because you know he was going to be looking at your results. So that's the other thing that I see that a coach does. It holds you accountable. And I think that really accelerated you. So COVID hits, you got these big plans, 2020. Now talk about most people in 2020, they went in the opposite direction. They made an excuse and you made an opportunity. So talk about how you made 2020 your boss in a sense.
Well, I pivoted. I was actually lost. And around March, COVID had hit, you know, the pools were closed. You couldn't really train to swim for a triathlon. The triathlon races were all being canceled because of COVID all around the world, really. And I was really lost because I had all this momentum. I had this huge momentum going in. My health was great. My fitness was good. I had a good year in 2019, the best year ever racing. And now with COVID, it was all gone. It was all gone. Like, what am I going to do with myself? And everyone is, you know, it's a very stressful time. You know, think back. We're wondering, are millions and millions and millions of people going to die? I mean, it was just very stressful. And I just decided I was going to focus on the things I could control. And my coach, and this is where my coach came in, he awakened within me something I had never considered before because I did not have the belief in myself, enough belief in myself. He said, Bob, with COVID, let's change up what we're doing and just focus on marathon running, 26.2 mile marathon racing with the goal of qualifying for the Boston Marathon. And he said, here's the deal. If you can qualify for Boston, when triathlons resume, you will be a much better runner. I had never considered this because I really never considered myself a very good runner, because I'm still in my head, I'm still Bob, the 50-pound overweight guy, and all the Boston Marathon people I knew, that's like a big deal for in marathon world. Boston's kind of like the top. I just never saw this as something I was capable of doing. But I had, in March of 2020, when my coach presented this, I said, let me sleep on it. And I slept the next day. I called him. I said, let's try it. I don't consider myself much of a runner, a good runner, but let's go for it. I like the idea.
Yeah. And I really want to touch on something here that is extremely critical. And many of our listeners and people that follow me, we talk about this a ton. You had this story. You kept telling yourself, now you had lost 50 pounds. You were performing at a good level, right? You had hired this coach. You were feeling good. You were doing well in your coaching business, yet you still had an identity and a story you told yourself that you were still, you don't mind my expression, still Fat Bob.
I'm still that guy. I can't run. There's no way I could run a marathon and qualify for Boston. That was still the story in my head.
And so what work did you, now your coach said something to you very profound. What did he say? He said, when you are around your regular day people, he said what?
He said, it's okay to be, who you are, and it's interesting. My coach has this history as well. He was overweight. He struggled with weight. He got very fit. He achieved all these things in sports. So we have this connection, right? This shared connection about being unhealthy and then getting healthy. So that was powerful. He said, it's okay to have that in your mindset, because that's kind of who you are. But when you race, you can't have that mindset. It will defeat you when you actually need to toe the line and race. And I've actually worked on that, and he's right. So when I actually race now, I consciously put that story aside, and because that will defeat you when you're in suffering and in pain and racing hard.
Yeah. And, I talked about that at the beginning when I introduced you. I said, it's so important to have somebody who believes in you. But at some point, the script in your own head needs to flip, and you have to believe it for yourself, because whatever dream and goal we're trying to go for in our life, whether it's qualifying for the Boston Marathon, getting on a podium, or really writing a book in my case, or even starting an own business, or whatever it is, at some point, you have to believe you can do it. You have to tell yourself the story. I can do this. And if you don't at some point flip that script, really that vision will just simply stay a vision and not come to fruition. So I think that's very, very important. And I also, so what happened? So 2020, you decide to focus on marathon running. You're logging all kinds of crazy miles. And then your coach says to you, okay, now this is the middle of the pandemic, folks. There are no races happening, nothing. Now the Boston Marathon, you have to qualify for this. And there's certain races around the country that are identified as good races to qualify at. Now, no race is happening, but from the grace of God, and I think it was the universe directing Bob, your coach finds this random race in what state? Michigan, was it?
Well, actually, I was actually researching all that. We were kind of doing it together. So we started the training in March, and he says, we're going to get you up to 60 to 65 miles running a week, which I had never done in my life as an athlete, lifelong athlete. And I'm thinking, he's crazy. And he said, if you want to be competitive for Boston, you need that kind of volume, right? Because, this is what it takes, right? So I got up to that point, and unfortunately, my body responded. I didn't have really any issues with that amount of running. And we targeted a race in July in Seattle, and it was on, but COVID, it was touch and go. Things were starting to open up, but then they were, it would resurge and they cancel the races. So when you train for these races, you peak and you have this peak fitness, and then you race, right? You can't maintain this peak fitness because it's a cycle, right? So we had picked a race in July in Seattle, and like 2 weeks before the race, COVID, Seattle surged, they canceled the race. So I we had to reset everything. And then there was a race in Idaho in August, and I registered for that 2 weeks before, or like a week before, canceled, COVID. Then there was one in Massachusetts in early September, and same thing, 3 days before, canceled. And my coach said, "Hey, we can't keep you peaked. You have to take a break," because had been running so much, physically. And I'm an old guy. I'm like 61. I'm old. You're going to need a couple week break, and then you'll have to start over. And there was a race in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it looked like it was going to go. They had all these restrictions, and I said, "I'm going to Grand Rapids." And he said, "All right, if this race doesn't go, we have to take a break. We have to reset, give you a break." Well, Grand Rapids happened. No spectators. I flew up by myself. I live in Georgia. I flew to Michigan, and I did the race. And I had a good race. I ran 8 minutes and 50 seconds under my qualifying time for Boston. So I had a very good race, and I was blown away. I was so excited because I never thought I could do something like that.
And, I want to make a note here, guys. Anybody else would have had these excuses, right? Identifies a race in Seattle, canceled. Identify a race in Idaho, canceled. Many people would have said, screw it. The universe is trying to send me a message. But no, because he wanted this. He had set a vision, he had set a dream, and he said, "I'm going to go for this." And he made it happen, and he qualified for the Boston Marathon. So unbelievable, unbelievable. Now, most people, again, would have stopped there. But successful people, I always say, like myself, are always hungry for more, right? Are always hungry for more. Most people said, "Okay, Mary Ellen, you're doing well over here in this little side gig you got going on. You're good here. You're good here." But you know what? When you're eating something yummy, you don't take one bite and say, "I'm good here." You always want to take another bite. And so you said, "All right, did that. Check, check, check." Now 2021 comes, and you got back to your original goal, which was qualifying at the Ironman World Championship, for the Ironman World Championship 70.3. So set a third dream that you wanted to get on the podium at one of these half Ironman races. So talk a little bit about that just briefly.
So the Boston thing gave me a lot of confidence, right? These successes give you momentum, and they allow you to modify these ingrained stories we have about ourselves in our head. "Oh, I'm not really a good runner." Well, I guess I'm a pretty good runner now because I qualified for Boston. And then this gives me confidence. I can have a strong run in triathlon, right? So it builds this momentum. These successes build momentum. So coming into 2021, I said, let's try to get on a podium at one of these Ironman 70.3 races, which would be there's 5 slots, the top 5 guys in your age group. In my age group, 60 to 64. So that was a big goal. The highest finish I'd ever had was 8th place. And, I thought I could get there now that I'd done the Boston thing. So we started training, and we thought this year in 2021, we're going to race through, 2 or 3 times, and we'll try to get on the podium. And then, then they have these world slots for podium people. You get a slot to go out and do the world. So I had the first race was a couple of weeks ago in Panama City, Florida. But my coach was like, "There's no pressure. Let's just see where we're at." Because we hadn't really done an Ironman in 18 months. Let's just see where we're at and assess and just go in and execute a quality race. So that was my mindset. But, I showed up at the race, but I had the new mindset. Like, I'm going to be a beast on this race. I'm going to just do my best. And I'm going to not listen to the voices in my head that tell me you can't. Fat Bob, you can't do it. And I put that voice aside.
Yep.
And I had a good race. It was a very scary swim in the Gulf of Mexico. It was crazy. And then the bike was good. I got a penalty for, something at the bike, and I had a 5-minute penalty. And where I had to just wait and people for 5 minutes in the penalty tent. And I thought, well, I could have thought my race is over, because that's a lot of time I would have given up. But I just said, I'm just going to go out and do my best. And I got out on the run, and I I managed to get a 5th place finish and a world championship slot with that 5th place finish. So on my first race of 2020, I had achieved the 2 big goals I had set for myself this year. I thought, well, that was easy. I got that done. That's like crazy.
And there's so many themes here, Bob. I just want to, before we wrap up, and I want you to finish with our 4 tips that we discussed, but this is unbelievable. So many themes. You have a goal, right? Who do you have to let go of to achieve that goal, right? So you had to let go of the corporate guy. You had to let go of Fat Bob. You had to let go of these identities, old identities that didn't serve the new chapter and the new you. So that's number 1. You had to put aside the judgments and the opinions of others who thought you were cray-cray, right? That's the second thing. And then you had to believe it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you believe it for yourself. And the last point I want to say is obstacles were the way for you. We say this all the time. You and I talk about this on the daily. How many people say, oh, I can't do this? Or give you throw a lot of shade on things or make excuses. And we say, no. It's not that you can't. It's just that you won't. You used every opportunity. I mean, I have notes upon notes of how you've used challenging times as launching pads, right? So, 2020 pandemic, you didn't use it as an excuse. You used it as an opportunity, and opportunity to level up when other people were going in the opposite direction, right? These races were canceled. You said, okay, it's okay, because I'm going to find the one that's right for me. And then first race out of the gate in 2021, when you could have said, well, I'm rusty, I'm really not seasoned to race. You said, no, I'm going to get to the starting line. I'm going to be a beast. I'm going to go make it happen. When other people were probably saying the same thing you were, right? Or same thing that your coach wanted you to say, which was just use this as a little bit of a test period. You said, no, this is going to be my race. So at every opportunity, you saw the obstacle, the challenge, the problem, if you will, as a launching pad. Why is that important for people to do?
Well, if you want to live your best life, that's what it takes. If you want to live your best life, that's what it takes. And let me just move into the tip. This dream big, set goals, take action. You got to dream big. If you don't have big dreams, you're not going to achieve them. Now, here's the thing about big dreams. They're scary because you may not be successful. I have a success story and it feels awesome, but it could have not worked out and it would not feel awesome. But the way it starts with this dream and really taking counsel from those in your life that you trust, your spouse, folks that you trust, folks that have done what you aspire to do.
Yes.
You're being realistic, right? About the dream. Is it really, possible? Is it through a lot of work and time and effort? Like I say, I'm not going to be singing on stage anywhere, no matter how much I want to do that, right? That's not possible. But,
right. And I want to say something else that you touched upon earlier. You said you leveraged your small wins first. And this is what my book is all about. You can't sometimes picture the big wins, the big waves. You got to start small. So you started small. You started, okay, I left my job, corporate, health coaching, financial coaching, triathlon coaching, check. Stacking these small wins. You got healthy in your body. You lost your 50 pounds. Check another small win. It allowed you to build up that I call that the bank of you. You build up this reserve in yourself. So the next mission you wanted to accomplish, the next goal you wanted to accomplish, you said, well, wait a minute. I remember winning back there. If I won back there, maybe I can win a little bit bigger next time. And you stack those wins. So it allows you to go bigger and dream bigger and win bigger, right?
Yes. And sometimes you push too hard. And I saw that on training. Every day I just approach my training and just try to do the best I can. But you start feeling like I'm Superman. I'm superhuman. I can do anything. And that's not true. So if you push too hard, it can bite you. And I did see that. I did experience that. It's a process, right? You have the steady consistency wins over time. The steady consistency wins over time. These people that are healthy during the week and they go crazy on the weekend, it doesn't work, right?
Right.
It doesn't.
Right. And the second, we talk about, so dreaming big, doing the work, staying consistent. The third thing is you had to ask for support, right? Because you said cost for pursuing your goals. There's a cost for pursuing your goals. So go to your support system and make sure that they're on board, correct?
If you have a big dream, and I had this big dream, I talked to my wife and my coach, and there's a cost. And they're going to want, my wife wants to do things, and I'm going to be saying no because I'm pursuing this big dream, and having her on board and supporting me gives me the psychological support I need. If I was pursuing some big dream and did not have support, and I have a pretty good support system, friends, family, my coaches, right? This all plays into the mindset. Very, very important. I think it's probably the most important thing. If you do not have support within the network of people that love you and want the best for you, it can be very difficult to try to pursue, because you're really kind of in survival mode. You don't have the opportunity to really pursue the big dreams.
Yeah. And then the last one was get around the people that know more than you. Hire the experts, right? That would be the last thing. I always say, if you're not in the room where you're the smartest person, get the hell out of that room and go get in a room where there are people smarter than you. And that's what you had to do by hiring your coach. And a lot of people think they know it all. They think they know it all, and they're not open and coachable and teachable. Why is that important to get around the experts?
Well, let me tell you a little story about my coach. So as I mentioned, I'm a triathlon coach, and I'm a very data-driven person, and I like data, I like to analyze things. And when I connected with my coach, I said, here's my training plan for 2019. I had my entire year of training on a big spreadsheet, and very knows I like this, right? So he says to me, yeah, that's nice. Just throw that away. That's not how it works. He's like Yoda. He's like, first you must unlearn all that you have learned. And I thought to myself, what is he talking about? And he said, that's not how it works to get to the top. If you want to be at the top, it's organic. It's a week, 2 weeks at a time, depending on how you respond. You can't program the year. It's not programmatic. It's organic. And I thought, this guy's rocking my world. I can't think like this. Like, I have to have everything planned and everything. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. So I had to really adjust my thinking.
Yeah. And trusting him. We talk a lot about this in our business, in our health coaching business, right? You have to trust your coach and trust the process and lean into that. And a lot of people are afraid to do that. So in summary here, the tips that Bob gives, dream big, right? And that's going to be scary. And I talk about this a lot. When I am scared to do something, it's like a neon red flashing sign on the highway of progress. I know that I got to run right towards that. That should scare you. Big dreams, big goals should make you uncomfortable. So that's number one. Number two is ask for support. Ask for support, get around your people, make sure that they know what you're doing, communicate your goals. The third thing is you got to do the freaking work, guys. You have to do the freaking work. And Bob and I say this all the time. People might do the work for a hot minute, but they're not consistent. Consistency with whatever goal or dream you're trying to achieve is so probably the most important thing. We see this in our own health, when we're trying to move people towards health. They could have habits for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, but if you're not consistent day in and day out with your habits, you're not going to get there. So that's the third thing. And the last thing is get around the experts. Get in, figure out who's winning in the area of your life that you need to win in, and go find them and link arms with them. And don't be so freaking stubborn and have your ego in your own way that you can't be open and coachable and throwing training plans out and letting go. That's the other thing too, Bob, because you and I and people like us, we're control freaks. I want to control the narrative. And so when you are getting around the experts, sometimes you have to be vulnerable. You got to be open to throwing out the plan, to letting go of some control for the greater good. Would you say that that's true?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is amazing, guys. if you think that it's too late to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, I mean, by all intents and purposes, Bob was in his mid-50s. He could have said, you know what, I'm just going to go down to Florida and live out the rest of my days. But he said, no way. I got big dreams and big goals, and age is only a number. And he only a number. And again, you used your seasoned chapter of your life as another opportunity versus a negative,
yes.
Right?
Yes, and you guys can too. You guys can too. There's no reason why you can't.
Absolutely. Well, if you could give one final tip to our viewers, to our listeners, about how they can just create a winning day, a winning mindset, a winning life, what would you say is the most important thing? What would you say?
I would say, think of the end, at the end of the day, at the end of the line, when you're done, do you want to look back and say, man, I went for it and I did it? Or maybe I didn't, but I at least went for it. And maybe I fell short. I have big goals I'm considering now, and they scare me because I think, I don't know if I can do this. But I don't think I will be satisfied unless I try them. And even if that means I fail miserably. And that's how I want to look back at the end, right? I want to say, hey, I tried to, I got one life and I did the best to live the best life I possibly could, and with no regrets.
I love it. There you have it, folks. There you have it. No regrets. At the end of Bob's life, he will meet his maker void of all his dreams because he will have accomplished them. That's really it. Do you want to be empty knowing that you've completely lived a full life and gone for it? Or do you want to meet your maker with a life of regrets? I know I don't. Bob, it has been an honor. And I learned a lot from this, even though I know you intimately, I've learned a lot from this. And there you have it, guys. That's the secret sauce to winning today. Win today with Bob Ford.
Thanks for having me on, Mary Ellen. It was an honor to be on your show.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And guys, tune in again next week for more inspiration and motivation, how you can create a winning life too. Do not forget to go to wintodaybook.com, sign up. I'd love to have your email. It's coming soon, and we're going to have some free giveaways and some nice incentives also for those of you that sign up, pre-register for the book. And I'm super excited. It's going to be a perfect time to launch the book for that perfect beach read this summer. And thank you guys all for joining me here today, for giving me your time and attention and your listening ears. And love you madly. And we'll see you next time. Have a good day.
Bye.